Steve, have you heard of the game Funko Fusion?
I have not.
Okay.
There was what was it? Fusion Frenzy.
No,
Remember that
not
for the
that.
Xbox, the OG
Yes.
Xbox? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I've been playing Funko Fusion, which I got on sale on the PlayStation Store before Christmas because I knew I was going to be home. My son was going to be home and stuff. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh, this will be a fun game to play. And it was delightful.
Funko
Clearly
Pops? Like Funko
it's Funko
Pops?
Pops, and clearly it's kind of
Ah.
like designed like it's a very similar concept to a Lego game, but you have 5 or 6 worlds that you start with, and they're off the wall stuff. It's John Carpenter's The Thing, 70s Battlestar Galactica,
What? It's a kids
Jura-
game?
yeah, Jurassic World, Hot Fuzz, Scott
Oh,
Pilgrim, Umbrella Academy. I mean, it's not really a kids game because The Thing in particular gets really
the
violent.
thing is not
So
kids.
no, so I played that levels. I played all those levels on my own without my son, but it was a lot of fun and reminded me how much I liked 70s Battlestar Galactica. So we started watching the show again, like with my wife and son, my son who's 10, and we're all into it. So you know, but the game is a lot of fun. It's just a very chill, like unplug your brain and run through these levels kind of thing. So it's really fun.
Classic Battlestar Galactica just reminds me of like when I first watched it, and I was just like, I always bring it up when he's just like, what that'll cost, 75 tractors, and you're like,
I,
I don't know how much that
yeah,
like,
they
is
do
that
a
a
lot
lot?
of that.
Like,
They do a lot of that. Yeah, for sure. Or like the kid loses his dog in the beginning, and they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, it's Daggett." Just they pick certain
Daggett,
things,
yeah.
and they're like, "We're gonna have our own word for that." Yeah, it is funny how in the first episode, which they edited together to be like feature length, everything is destroyed. They're on the run, and they find
Mhm.
this like casino planet, and they're like, "All right," and it's like, guys. Your entire civilization was destroyed like 48 hours ago. What are you doing? But
Short leave, baby. Come on,
yeah. No, but
like
Funko Fusion, it really, I was like, man, I need to, like, I've never seen Hot Fuzz. I've seen the other,
what?
I've never
Oh,
seen it, but I've seen, Shaun of the
so
Dead
good.
and World's End. What is that other one?
That's the one where they bar hop, the pub hop, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
yeah. That's
Um,
pretty good. So I read
so
Umbrella Academy. I don't know, it was just, it's a good time. And I feel like, if you're into vintage fandoms, there's a lot to be had, a lot to be enjoyed in Funko Fusion.
that's funny, man.
I know.
Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and we're taking apart the world of Star Wars Lego brick by brick.
Today we are discussing Star Wars Lego Rebuild the Galaxy Part 2. This episode had its Disney Plus debut on September 13th, 2024, last year. What do you know?
Can you
Not
believe
too
it?
long ago. Not
Can
long
you believe
ago.
it?
And in a galaxy right here.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Very nice.
All right. So for this episode, we have our regular returning cast. We also get a few more classic returning characters. So we have Ahmad Best back as Jar Jar Binks. We have Mark Hamill, of course, as Luke Skywalker, Anthony Daniels as C-3PO. We get Sam Witwer, who voiced Maul in lots of things, including the Solo movie, coming back as Maul. And we have Dee Bradley Baker, who is voicing Nubs from Young Jedi Adventures, which we just covered, as well as a cameo from Wicket. And I was happy to see it.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll get to it.
Oh, yes, we will. Oh, man.
Our featured cast member this time around is Marseille Martin. She stars as Yessie. She's best known for her role as Diane Johnson in the hit series Blackish, a role she reprised on both spin-offs Mixedish and Grownish. I didn't realize that was her, and when I looked that up and watched episode 2, I was like, oh yeah, it is her.
You can hear her. You can hear. You just close your eyes.
Yeah. that show, I mean, especially Blackish, just kills me. It's so funny.
I never saw that. Was that on Netflix? I can't even remember.
No, it's an ABC. It was like a classic
ABC.
ABC sitcom. Yeah.
I didn't have television for very long, and when I did, it was only sports. So I never
Ah,
watched any shows.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
For the crew, this was written by Dan Hernandez and Benji Sammet and directed by Chris Buckley. And I feel like, not to give things away, but I think it was an improvement on the first episode, which I already liked quite a bit. So,
I agree. And I
okay.
said like, oh, I don't know. There wasn't
Yeah.
enough. There wasn't enough
Yeah.
to like. Now they kind of introduce more stuff, and it's like, all right, like they're really. What it is? It's they're not hanging on to the let's do whatever we want because now we kind of have a blank slate because
Mhm.
the universe is different. They are
Yeah.
kind of creating their own story, just using elements that exist,
Yeah.
garbling them together or flip flopping them. For instance, we do see Maul, but he's wearing
Yeah.
Lando's clothes. So like,
Yeah.
I wonder like how that's gonna go. Like, what's
I
the deal with that?
I
Like,
know. I thought the same. My son said the same thing. He was like, "Is he Darth Maul, Lando combined?" I'm like, "I don't know," but that yellow shirt, pretty hard
yeah.
to miss.
I had to hold back and not go right into episode 3 because I
I
was like,
know.
"Oh,
I know. It is
I
tough.
really want
It
to
is
keep
tough.
it, so that they don't know what's next. I don't want to ruin anything,
Yeah.
So,
Well, you're right. I mean, there is a story here, and I'd love to hear it. So hit me.
all right, the uber detailed plot of Rebuild the Galaxy Part 2. Part 2 picks up where we left off. Sig and Yessi are held captive by Sig's evil brother, Dev. Unable to get the information Dev requires, he introduces Evil Ray. Sig, still seemingly unconvinced that he's now in an alternate reality, is distraught that Ray is also evil. Just doesn't get it, does he? Reluctantly, Sig reveals to Dev the piece he took from the Jedi Temple, which Dev refers to as the Cornerstone. Before Sig hands it over, Jedi Master Barbarian Apple builds a barrier which allows them to escape Dev and Evil Ray. Jedi Master Bob, who he hates being called that apparently,
Yes, doesn't like it.
displays his master rebuilding skills in their daring escape. They take Bob's ship, which he cleverly disguises as a pile of rubble. Dev pursues, but because of some creative rebuilding, Sig, Yessi, Bob, and even Servo manage to escape off planet. Bob informs Sig he messed up. By removing the cornerstone, the entire universe has been scrambled. In this reality, the resistance is losing. So Yessi lends her aid in fixing what's been messed up. Bob has Sig hold the cornerstone and concentrate.
Mm.
Using nearby pieces, he innately builds a Nerf. At least that's what I think it is. I don't know. What do you, I don't know. It's a Nerf. It looked like a Nerf.
Whatever.
Yeah. Bob is convinced Sig is a natural force builder, a sect of the Jedi dedicated to creation. A sect of the force builders separated and dedicated themselves to destruction, calling themselves force breakers. Da-da-da. Realizing their fight was eroding the galaxy, the Force Builders created the cornerstone, and as long as it remained intact, the galaxy could not be undone. To undo what's been undone, they must find the new cornerstone temple, unfinished, somewhere in the galaxy unknown. Unfortunately, the cornerstone is bonded with Sig, so he is part of the story no matter what. He must become a true force builder to succeed. Meanwhile, Dev puts a bounty out on Sig. Training to build, Sig gives Servo a few upgrades, one being the ability to speak. Training is unfortunately cut short due to bounty hunters. Ewok bounty hunters, to be exact. An asteroid space chase ensues. Most of our little friends perish in the chase, looking like they will escape until another bounty hunter arrives in a Naboo Royal cruiser. It's none other than C-3PO, who politely informs them they are doomed. Before they can be captured, they manage to blindly jump into hyperspace, but drop out quickly due to failed engines. Before they crash into the ocean of a nearby planet, Sig uses his newly honed force building ability to rearrange their ship to have flotation. Safe from a watery grave, Yessi takes the opportunity to inform them they were discovered by the bounty hunter because she has a knack for accidentally giving away information to the Empire. Great. That's just great. The group makes their way to an island marina coincidentally called Mos Eisley Marina. They are on Tatooine. Maybe if Luke is there, he can help them. Their attention is immediately averted, or diverted, I should say, to an ongoing pod race involving none other than Luke Skywalker. They see him cheat to win and confront him about it afterwards in order to enlist his help, which he turns down after Sig tells him about Luke's messed up life in his reality. Good job. Which was clever, by the way. I thought that was really good. We
Yeah.
then get a glimpse of the hopeless mindset of Bob as he describes the dark side of the Force being louder and stronger versus the whispering light side. Sig freaks out, though, when he sees Yessie talking to Darth Maul, but he's good until he sells them out to evil Rey. Bob and Rey battle. Clearly, Bob is rusty in his saber skills and is nearly defeated until Sig entraps Rey into a box. The Falcon arrives, although it's now quite ominous and black. Several evil characters emerge: Darth Rose, Tico, Darth Nubs, Darth Kit Fisto, Darth Hammerhead from the Cantina, a Darth Jawa, unnamed, and Darth Jar Jar, followed by Darth Dev. Still desiring the cornerstone, Dev informs them of his plan to will away his enemies, deconstruct planets, destroying them, blink stars out of existence. Force tug of war begins between Bob and Dev for the cornerstone. Sig realizes how messed up everything is as the Sith close in on him. Roll credits.
I gotta say, we're halfway through this thing, and I would like Sig to get with the program.
I knew you were gonna say that because there was a couple times where I was like,
Still,
surely by now.
you're not. This isn't clicking at this point. Still, even though you've described the multiple universes, you're still thinking what's good is good and what's bad is bad.
I mean, it starts out they're upside down.
Yeah,
Basically being tortured.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, come on, really? Rey's evil? You
Yeah.
you defeated the Emperor and blah blah blah." And it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Then not everybody
Chief.
needs a lecture about what
Come
they
on,
did.
Chief. Yeah. You bring up Rey though, and that's another thing that I feel like is fun that they're doing, because there was the whole, theory that Rey was going to turn dark in the sequel movies, which would have been awesome. And that whole theory that like Jar Jar was secretly a Sith and all that stuff. So they're also kind of playing with what's out there, like in the lore and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. I really liked Darth Rey. I really liked the design of that. And that voice actress is really
sounds just like her,
dead on.
right?
Yeah, it's not. I looked it up. It's not her, but it really sounds like Daisy Ridley quite a lot. So yeah, I thought that was super cool. Also, they're using some music cues from the sequel era in that Darth Rey, not just like classic Star Wars themes, but actually pulling things out of the sequel area as well. So I think that was pretty cool all around.
Yeah.
I like when that walker it jumps off and changes into a ship. That was kind of a classic moment. They're really like utilizing the Lego-ness in a way that I feel like other stuff hasn't.
Yeah. That whole scene, that whole chase scene was just so cool.
Yeah.
You definitely get to see Bob's power. So like we get a kind of like a glimpse into what a master rebuilder Jedi would do. Basically, I thought it was interesting too that like at first it almost seemed like parts and stuff become what they want to build, but Dev specifically like makes a kind of like a rock arch start to crumble in front of Sig's ship as they're escaping, and Bob turns it into Sebulba's pod racer engines, which then connect and then make them go faster. Which I was like, oh, so it's kind of like. Now he's not only is he just using Legos to build, he's kind of matter scrambling now, right? So it's like you can make the dust and stones into a ship, which is interesting. I that one I was just like, okay, well, whatever. Like I mean, it's there's not enough to get mad about, really.
Yeah.
But I was just like, all right, like whatever. It's the Force,
I was delighted with Luke pod racing. I thought was kind of a cool thing to see, even like a goofy version of that character. It was just kind of, again, that's a fun way to play with the lore, because that was like his father's thing, and maybe if he'd stayed on Tatooine, like he would have done that and everything. So I don't know. Luke. It's just, Yeah, it's just got
what they look like.
he
It's
did. He did have some Chuck Norris vibes, yeah.
yeah, it's like I mean, what is he supposed to be like 58-year-old
Yeah.
Norris Luke that
I
Potter
guess.
wishes? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just yeah.
I knew it once it said Mos Eisley Marina, you knew like, all right, Luke's coming.
Yeah. All the
Luke's
stuff in there was really fun too. Like there was when the two guys come up and they're like, he likes you. I like
yeah,
you too.
I like you too.
I mean that was fun.
That was good.
I feel like there's a million cameos in here that I'm not catching, but I did see Zori from Rise of Skywalker in the cantina when they were panning. The
Oh,
character that Kerry Russell played, who had the connections to Poe
yeah,
in Rise
yeah.
of Skywalker, she was there in the cantina, and I was like, and it just made me think, like, boy, I bet in these pans there's just a million like little minor characters
Yeah,
like
you
that.
watch it again, I'm sure you'll find more. There's also dialogue too, like reversed dialogue
Yeah.
here and there,
Yes. Yep.
back and forth that if you catch it, it's kind of funny to hear the
Yeah.
exact opposite spoken.
Yeah.
So
True. I thought that Nubs I mean, it was cool to see him, but I was like, that's a weird inclusion. Like an
yeah, no.
adult evil Nubs just from Young Jedi Adventures, and that's like the only thing. And so I guess that character is
But it's a
also
good
like hundreds
character,
of years
that's
old.
why. Like
Yeah, I
he's
guess.
like the last
Yeah.
character that would be
Yeah, I mean, I
evil.
didn't bump on it. I was just like, okay, that's weird. But I just things kept happening. I mean, when it cuts to the Ewoks and their like foresty ships and everything flying through the air, my wife looked over and she was like, "Wow, you look delighted," and I was, I was,
They definitely surprised me too. I was like,
yeah,
"What?
yeah.
No way!" Oh man, flying.
In preparation, I looked at the cast and I saw that there was a voice credit for Wicket, and I was like, "Oh, maybe we'll get a little bit more Ewoks." Was not expecting a fleet of Endorian bounty hunters. We saw Wicket, and was it like movie Tebow that we
I
saw?
think it was movie Tebow, the
Yeah,
gray.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what that was supposed to be.
yeah.
I
I
don't
think
know.
so
Did
too.
they
So
die though? There was multiple exposed.
Ewoks, and Goonies never die. I feel like so. I think they're
It
fine.
looked like it looked like at to begin with there was about 6 or 7 of them, and then all of them exploded. I think for 2, and then at the
Mhm.
end there was like again 6 or 7. So it was like,
Yeah,
okay, so I guess they didn't
they're okay.
explode. They're
They all had sun crystals, not sun stars. They all had sun
regenerative
crystals,
crystal.
regenerative sun crystals that could power. Yeah.
They had sun gems.
Yes.
All
Of
yeah.
course. Of course. Pocket sized. Yeah.
Healing. They had healing dust.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Low gray.
All right. Well, let's talk good and bad. What is your Oak of Arc moment? Because I found it a little difficult to pick one.
I found it difficult to pick one too. I couldn't get Chuck Norris Luke out of my head.
Yeah, that
Was
was
like I was like,
yeah,
oh, okay. I don't know what they're. It would have been great if they made him like Jord or
yeah,
whatever, because that would
yeah,
have been funny.
yeah.
But Anakin's bone necklace also, I was just like, all right, that kind of creeped me out a little bit. That like that's your mom, so then
An
like
heirloom. It's a family heirloom, let's
okay,
say.
it's a family heirloom. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right. We'll leave it at that then.
The
I think that,
the characterization of Luke was odd. Like obviously he wasn't going to
yeah,
be, the great heroic Luke Skywalker. And I don't know if they were trying to show like we've seen, mad, depressed old Luke. Here's like
yeah,
young, carefree, fun Luke. I'm not
yeah.
sure.
Well, the story's not about him, right?
Right,
So
right.
they can't make him. They can't really kind of
Yeah.
focus on anybody else except
Yeah,
for.
I mean, I guess I maybe would have leaned more into like a Jeff Bridges kind of Luke, where he's just like chill
Yeah,
and everything. Him being like a
oh, it's cool, man.
grifter and stuff
Racing.
was, I don't
Yeah.
know. But
I think
so
I think what bothered me the most, Bob is giving his like clearly depressed,
yeah,
little version of what's going on, and he said being a hero is easier when you don't know the cost. And I thought that was really interesting because like in my eyes, being a hero is knowing the cost and choosing to go forwards anyway,
yeah,
right? So doing something and not knowing the cost would not be considered heroic. That would be considered
ignorant.
reckless and yeah, like
Yeah,
oh yeah, I'm gonna totally it'll be really cool to toss this toaster in a tub or something, like something like that, where it's just like, no, dude, what do we don't realize the cost, or things like that. That's like reckless, like not understanding or fully comprehending the cost.
Yeah.
And so that bothered me. And I sat there thinking, I wonder if they're going to turn that around, because to me, that statement was kind of like really focused on it. It felt like they really focused on it. And I was like, that statement is so wrong to me,
Mm.
to every fiber of my being, that a hero,
Oh, every
doesn't
fiber.
know the cost. Every
Yeah.
fiber.
Yeah.
It's a true hero understands, like, I might not make this, but
Yeah.
it still needs to be done.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, that was I mean, it has
Okay.
nothing to do with Star Wars. It's just a script
Yeah.
issue for me.
A
But I
philosophical
wonder,
difference between you and Rebuild the
philosophical difference.
Galaxy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have the feeling that they might play on that
Well,
and
we'll
turn it
see.
around. That
We
might
got
be
2 more
Bob's
episodes.
redemption. Might be, yeah. There's plenty of redemption arc
You
available. What
mentioning
about you?
Bob. Yeah, Bob is mine. I don't like the characterization of Jedi Bob. And
Yeah,
he doesn't need to be like this hardcore like super Jedi or something like that. Even having him be a little clumsy or whatever would be fine, but I like Bobby Moynihan, but I don't know what he's doing with this, because it feels like half the time he has sort of like a vaguely British accent and is being sort
yeah,
of hoity-toity, and other times he just seems like a dummy, and I find it very inconsistent, because also he is very powerful in the ways that he's powerful, and it's like Sig is already being the goofy, like, what's going on character. So like to have them both kind of be off balance and stuff, I just don't really think it works. And I find myself kind of checking out the most when Jedi Bob is the focus, because I just feel like it's not. I don't know. Give me a Kevin Smith Jedi Bob. Maybe I'll like that
yeah.
better.
I agree with
But
that.
it's just
You're
a
right.
weird
They're both
characterization.
slapsticky, and they can't both be slapsticky.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I mean, they could have gone the route of he's a little kooky because he's been guarding this thing by himself for like generations. Like, to me, that would have played a little bit better, if he's like, oh, and then like when he's called upon to be powerful, he can snap back in, but he still is kind of like, I've been alone too long, I'm
yeah.
kooky.
Or he's
Rather
talking
than,
to a stick or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Because he's just been alone for so long.
yes, and that I feel like could have been
That
a
would have
better
been better.
dynamic, but it just feels like
Yeah.
they're both kind of going to the same well in some ways, and I don't know. That's the thing that I'm not digging. But what do you like? What's your Ichiwawa moment?
So, I mean, I feel like the Ewoks are just a given.
I know.
I don't know if you noticed, I had to rewind a few times to just catch it, but they're flying Y-wings
Yeah.
that have Ewok glider wings
Yeah.
attached to the outside.
Yeah. And there's like tree
Very
pieces and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like I thought it was really cool. Like that was definitely like a nod to the Ewoks. My favorite part though was when C3PO rolls up and he tells them the odds of their
Yeah.
survival.
Yeah.
And Sig goes, "Why did he tell us the odds?" And like, I
Yeah.
just thought that, like, to me, like, because I say that all the time to people, like, "Oh, never tell me the odds," and they're like, I didn't," and they're
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
anyway, and they're
Yeah.
like, "You shouldn't do that, Steve," and I'm like, "Never tell me the odds," and they're like, "I didn't tell you any odds. I've already decided I'm going to do it,"
Yeah. That's
like things
funny.
like that, and so like I love that line, and when he said that, I just cracked up because I just
Yep.
thought it was, "Why did you tell me the odds?"
Yep.
It's so good. What about you?
Well, I really liked when Jedi Bob is explaining to Sig the different kind of like force users, and he's talking about how there's this secret sect of like
Mm.
builders and there's destroyers that go with it. And some of the books zero in a little bit more on the different like specialties of the Jedi and stuff. So that's already sort of in the air.
Mm.
And I really liked that they were using the Lego-ness of it all to kind of give that an in-universe explanation in a way. I just thought
Yeah.
it was cool to be like, your power is build specific, and your enemies are like destroy specific. And I was like, yeah, you're kind of actually putting a little layer of lore in this thing
Mhm.
that's primarily goofy, but like I just feel like the work, like the writing behind the scenes where they're tying some of these threads together is maybe more maybe watching so many episodes of Ewoks and Droids, I forget that, sometimes writing is good. But I appreciate the care that went into that, to kind of
Yeah.
set up this and let it be its own thing.
It felt like it flowed with Star Wars lore rather than copying it.
Yeah.
Where it's like it makes sense. Like the Jedi are about life and creation, and the Sith are about destruction. So it felt like it fit. Where you're like, oh yeah, yeah, they would be. You would be creators, specializing in creation and building, and they would be destruction, which would be passionate and easy, and creation is more difficult and delicate. And so, like, there's just, I thought it worked, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that was your Ichiwawa, because it just, I think that was, I wonder how that came to them when they were
Yeah.
writing. They were like, oh yeah, it should just be this, and
Yeah.
somebody was like, dang, like,
It's a good moment. It
yeah,
really
yeah,
is.
that's it, that's what we're doing.
It really
So
is. How many yub nubs do you give this, Steve?
a lot happens in this. We got a
Yeah,
lot more. I mean, what did I give the last one? Like a 5 or 5. I gave it like a 4.75 or
I think
something like
so.
that.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I think I could give it a 5. This was
I'm
like,
there. Yeah,
this
I'm with
one
you.
knocked it out of the. I think it was better than the first one. Even though the first one had the burden of world building, this
Yeah.
one just like took it and just made it so much more fun.
Yep, I agree.
So this is like epitome. This is like epitome. I hate, that's like a bad word. This is like the bar for
Mm,
like fun, creative Star Wars content. This kind of like is what they're doing with Skeleton Crew. This has
yeah.
that feel of just like not being serious, using Star Wars as your, the building blocks, pun intended,
Yep.
but but not getting into like anything that could contradict itself, and
Hmm.
really just being like using the world to tell a new story rather
Yeah.
than trying to redo a story or create a story and then jam it into the Star Wars world, not caring how it fits. And so yeah, I mean, it's just like I'm having fun on this wild ride of I don't know what's going on or who's bad, who's good, and
Yep.
I'm sure we'll find out Maul is probably going to be good
I would
because he's
assume.
wearing
Yeah.
Lando's clothes.
Yeah.
So
That's got to be a reference to Lando wearing Han's clothes in Return of the
oh,
Jedi.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it must be. We'll see. We'll see. And maybe we'll find out next time because we're diving right back
Yeah.
in with Rebuild the Galaxy Part 3.
Oh gosh, I can't wait.
Having a good
It's gonna
time.
be fun. Oh
Having a
yeah,
good time.
finally having a good time.
All
It's
right.
weird too. It's not Ewoks, although we did have Ewoks.
We did.
So
We've had Ewoks in every episode so far, so
yeah.
we're still fulfilling the mission, I think. So,
Mission success.
yeah, we'll see if the streak continues next time. I'll see you then.
All right, I'll see you then. This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 9021 Here We Go, 90s Music Got Me Like, and previously on X-Men. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook or X at Endorian Life. Please rate, subscribe, and share the show wherever you're getting your podcasts.